Going no contact with a narcissist is arguably the most difficult, gut-wrenching, and yet courageous decision you will ever make in your life. It is not just a breakup, it is a full-scale reclamation of your own reality. If you are here reading this right now, it means you have either taken that massive leap or you are standing right on the edge, bracing yourself to jump. However, there is a brutal, cold reality you have to prepare for. Simply walking out the door doesn't mean they are finished with you. In their mind, you are not a person who has left. You are an asset that has temporarily gone offline. The moment you go silent, their real game doesn't end. It begins. You need to understand that narcissists do not possess the capacity to simply walk away, process a loss, and move on with dignity. That is not how their world functions. Instead, they pivot immediately into calculation mode. They are quiet, but they are not respecting your boundaries. They are not reflecting on what they did wrong. They are silent because they are strategizing, watching for a weakness, and waiting for the exact moment to reassert their presence. Today, we are going to pull back the heavy curtain on the 7 hidden things a narcissist secretly wants from you the moment you cut them off. We are going to move past the surface-level drama to expose exactly what is happening in their mind, why your silence feels like a personal declaration of war, and exactly how you can stop playing their rigged game for good. When you finally choose silence, the narcissist does not interpret it as the end of the road. To them, your choice to go no contact is an insult, a direct challenge to their sense of superiority and control. For a long time, they defined the terms of your relationship, and they grew comfortable knowing they were the primary influence in your world. Your silence is a threat to that legacy. Narcissists are essentially emotional parasites. They survive entirely on your attention. It does not matter to them if that attention comes in the form of love, admiration, or even pure, unadulterated rage. If you are thinking about them, you are feeding them. When you cut contact, you are essentially cutting off their oxygen supply, and they cannot handle that vacuum. That peace you are working so hard to cultivate, the quiet mornings, the mental space, the lack of arguments, is agonizing for them to witness. It is deeply, fundamentally uncomfortable because it forces them to face the one thing they fear most, their own irrelevance. If you are at peace, they have no influence. They are constantly looking for cracks in your armor because they cannot stand not knowing exactly how you feel about them. The mere possibility that you are out there, living, growing, and actually doing well without them, is enough to drive them into a state of silent, calculated fury. They view your healing as a failure of their mission, and they will do everything in their power to make sure your silence is short-lived. Once the initial silence sets in, the narcissist enters a phase of calculated testing. They need to know exactly how much of a grip they still have on your psyche, so they begin to dangle bait, carefully designed to see if you will bite. This is rarely a grand gesture at first. It is almost always subtle, almost invisible to anyone else, but loud to you. They might start by watching your social media stories from a burner account, or perhaps they will post a photo or a quote that is perfectly tailored to trigger a specific memory you share. They know exactly which emotional buttons to push, because they spent all their time with you learning your weaknesses. They are simply checking to see if the line is still attached, seeing if you are still paying attention to their movements, or if you have truly detached your focus from their world. You have to realize that every single one of these actions is a calculated piece of bait, and the only goal is to force a reaction out of you. They are not posting that song because they miss you, or because they are reminiscing about the good times. They are posting it to provoke a response. They might even reach out to a mutual friend asking, "How are they doing?" or mentioning something about you, knowing full well that this information will eventually find its way back to your ears. They are desperate for proof that they still matter. They are hoping you will reach out, get angry, demand an explanation, or even just check their profile to see what they are up to. To them, any form of attention, whether it is love, concern, or pure burning rage, is a successful outcome. As long as you are reacting, they know they have not lost their power over you. If they cannot manipulate you into speaking to them directly, they will happily settle for manipulating your internal state. They want to occupy your mind, and they are perfectly content if the version of them living in your head is making you miserable. They want you replaying old arguments in your car on your way to work, trying to justify their actions or figure out why things went wrong. They want you scrolling through their social media, looking for signs of a new partner or evidence that they are suffering without you. By keeping you stuck in this cycle of obsession, analysis, and emotional turbulence, they keep you trapped in the palm of their hand. The danger here is that you might mistake this mental exhaustion for something else. You might think, I'm just trying to understand why this happened, or I'm just curious about what they are doing. But that is the hook. As long as you are consumed by what they are doing, who they are with, or how they feel, you are still giving them the emotional fuel they crave. You are effectively keeping the door cracked open. They do not need to be physically in your life to control your day. They only need to be present in your thoughts. The moment you stop analyzing them, stop checking their status, and stop caring about their reaction, you stop being a participant in their game. You are no longer their audience, and that, more than anything else, is what truly terrifies a narcissist. Because they spent so much time dissecting your personality, a narcissist knows exactly how your mind works, and more importantly, they know how to push every single one of your buttons. When they realize that they can no longer access you in the physical world, they pivot to a much more insidious strategy. They become a permanent resident in your head. They start by weaponizing the very foundation of your relationship. They don't just want you to remember them, they want you to curate a greatest hits reel of your time together. They bank on the fact that your brain is wired to hold on to the highs, the intense chemistry, the early charm, the laughter, and those fleeting moments where everything felt perfect. By keeping these specific golden moments front and center in your memory, they are intentionally trying to drown out the reality of the abuse, the manipulation, and the quiet, crushing pain that ultimately drove you to leave. This isn't an accident. It is a calculated effort to force you into a state of chronic self-doubt. They want to make you look back at your decision to leave and question your own judgment. They want that little voice in the back of your mind to start asking dangerous, loaded questions. Was it really that bad? Maybe I was just being too sensitive. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe if I had just been more patient or changed how I communicated, things would have been different. Every time you allow yourself to wander down that path of what if, you are handing them the keys to your mental space. They want you to believe that you left too soon, that you were the one who broke something special, and that the fault for the failure lies entirely at your feet. This seed of doubt is precisely the hidden doorway they are waiting for you to unlock. When you start romanticizing the past to escape the reality of the present, you are essentially dismantling the protective boundaries you fought so hard to build. The narcissist doesn't have to reach out, text you, or apologize to make this happen. They just need you to start romanticizing the ghost of who they pretended to be. Once you convince yourself that the good was more important than the bad, you begin to justify a return to the cycle. You start looking for reasons to reconnect, simply because your brain has been tricked into viewing the relationship through a nostalgic, distorted lens. Staying stuck in this cycle is exactly how they maintain their control, even when they are thousands of miles away or completely out of your life. They want you trapped in a loop where you constantly compare their current, curated image to the idealized version of them you've built in your mind. This prevents you from ever truly healing because you are constantly mourning a person who never actually existed. By keeping you obsessed with the version of them that was charming and loving, they ensure that the pain of the abuse stays hidden in the shadows. Recognizing this tactic for what it is, a deliberate attempt to rewrite your history, is the only way to shut that door for good. You have to remember that those good times were not a separate reality. They were the bait used to keep you hooked so that the abuse could happen in the first place. When you stop honoring the illusion, the weapon loses its edge. Narcissists are master tacticians when it comes to weaponizing your greatest strength against you, your capacity for empathy. They chose you in the first place because you are a caring, compassionate, and loyal person, and they know that those same traits make you susceptible to feeling responsible for other people's pain. When they realize that their usual tactics of bullying, intimidation, or rage aren't working to drag you back into the relationship, they pivot to a far more manipulative strategy. They abandon the tough guy or superior act and suddenly transform into a broken, misunderstood, and helpless shell of a person. They want you to see them as the abandoned victim rather than the perpetrator of your pain. By painting themselves as someone who has been unfairly cast aside, they attempt to turn your healthy decision to walk away into an act of cruelty or betrayal. This act is performed with surgical precision. They might not always come to you directly, because they know you've closed that door. Instead, they operate through the shadows, leaking stories to mutual friends, posting cryptic, sad quotes, or acting distressed when you aren't around, all with the hope that the information will reach you. They want you to hear that they are suffering, that they are lost, or that they are deeply hurt by your coldness. They are crafting a narrative where you are the villain who destroyed a perfectly good thing, and they are the innocent party left to pick up the pieces. They do this because they know that your conscience will likely kick in. They are betting on the fact that you will start to feel bad for them, that you will worry about their mental state, and that you might even feel a tinge of guilt for prioritizing your own well-being over their drama. The ultimate goal here is to get you to pick up the heavy, rotting emotional burden they've been carrying and shoulder it for them. They want to see if your kindness is strong enough to make you cave. They want you lying awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, wondering if you were too harsh, too unforgiving, or too impatient. They want to shift the weight of their own behavior onto your conscience so that you are the one apologizing for their actions. It is a brilliant, twisted psychological trap designed to make you feel like you are the one who failed them. They want you to doubt your right to be safe and happy, hoping that your guilt will eventually override your logic and lead you back to them, if only to help them or set things right. You must understand that this is a performance, not a reflection of reality. Don't fall for the act. When you see them playing the victim, remind yourself that this is just another layer of the same game. Their misery is not your fault, and your desire to be free from them is not a moral failing. A boundary is not a weapon of war, it is a shield of protection. It is the wall you build to keep your peace safe from those who would drain it. When you hold your ground and refuse to take responsibility for their emotions, you aren't being cruel, you are being healthy. You are finally placing yourself as the priority, and that is a shift they will never, ever forgive you for. Keep that boundary firm, keep your focus on your own life, and refuse to carry the weight of someone who spent their time with you trying to break you. At the very heart of the narcissist strategy is a desire to occupy your mind without paying a cent of rent. They don't actually need you to be physically present, and they don't even need you to be chasing them with texts or calls to feel powerful. All they require is your internal focus. Think of your attention as a high-value currency. When you spend it on them, even in the privacy of your own thoughts, they're still collecting the interest. As long as they are the main character in your internal monologue, they have successfully claimed space in your brain that you should be using for your own growth, your own peace, and your own future. They are essentially squatters in your consciousness, feeding on the energy you waste while trying to make sense of the nonsense they put you through. It is easy to fall into the trap of believing that your private analysis is harmless. You might tell yourself that you are just trying to understand what happened, or that you are processing the trauma. But when you are constantly wondering what they are doing, whether they have moved on, or most dangerously, whether they have finally changed, you are still actively feeding them. Every time you find yourself asking, why didn't they reach out? Or, do they even remember me? You are effectively giving them a remote control to your emotions. They want you stuck in that loop of questioning and analysis because, from their perspective, as long as you are trying to decode them, they are still the most important person in your world. That obsession is a delayed source of emotional supply. It proves to them that even when you are gone, they are still winning the game by keeping your focus tethered to their ghost. This fixation is a heavy burden, and it is designed to keep you from ever truly moving forward. As long as you are monitoring their life, checking their social media, looking for updates from mutual friends, or dissecting their past behavior, you are keeping the connection alive. You are looking for closure in a place that has none to offer. The narcissist counts on this. They know that your human need for resolution will keep you tethered to the very cycle that nearly broke you. By keeping you preoccupied with their motives, they ensure that you are too busy looking backward to ever start building your life forward. You are essentially doing their work for them, keeping the memory of the abuse fresh and the emotional wounds open by constantly revisiting the scene of the crime. The moment you decide to stop monitoring their life, you stop being an active participant in their game. This is where the power dynamic shifts irrevocably in your favor. When you stop analyzing their motives, you are essentially serving them an eviction notice from your mind. You are saying, you no longer get to dictate my thoughts or consume my energy. It isn't easy, and it won't happen overnight, but you have to actively starve them of that attention. You have to stop caring about their opinion, stop trying to predict their next move, and stop wondering if they will ever have an epiphany about their behavior. The moment you redirect that energy back into yourself, your goals, your hobbies, your healing, and your future, their grip begins to loosen. You aren't just letting go of them, you are finally coming home to yourself. When they no longer occupy your thoughts, they lose their power, and you finally regain the freedom that was always yours to keep. There is a common misconception that when a narcissist goes quiet, they have finally moved on or realized that the relationship is truly over. In reality, their silence is just as loud, calculated, and intentional as any argument they ever started. They know that your human brain craves resolution and that you struggle to live with unfinished business. By disappearing completely, withdrawing all communication, ignoring your presence, or becoming a ghost, they are not giving you space to breathe. They are weaponizing the silence to make you spiral. They want you sitting in the dark, constantly questioning the foundation of what you once had. Did they ever actually care about me? Am I really that easy to forget? Was everything we shared just a lie? This is not a respectful step back or a quiet exit. It is a calculated provocation designed to turn your own thoughts against you. They are using this void to systematically dismantle your self-worth. By withholding themselves, they want you to feel insignificant, as if your worth was tied entirely to their validation. They are betting on your insecurities. They expect you to reach out because they are convinced that you are too weak to handle the uncertainty, and that eventually your need for answers will override your decision to go no contact. They are waiting for that moment of weakness, sitting back and watching to see if you will chase them. They are essentially testing your resolve, hoping that the agony of not knowing will drive you back into their trap. To them, your silence is a challenge they intend to win by making you believe that you are the one who is losing, or that you are the one being left behind. The absolute most dangerous thing you can do during this time is to reach out in pursuit of quote-unquote closure. We often tell ourselves that if we could just ask them one question, get one final explanation, or receive one last apology, we could finally put the past to rest. But this is exactly the trap the narcissist has laid for you. The second you break your silence to demand that closure, you are handing them the win. You have signaled that you are still emotionally dependent on their input and that you are still seeking their approval to validate your reality. In that moment, they have successfully regained the control they were beginning to lose. They don't want to give you closure. They want to keep you hooked, confused, and questioning your own sanity. Because as long as you are seeking answers from them, they are the ones holding the power. You have to realize that true closure is not a gift they give you. It is a reality you create for yourself. When they go silent, you should not take it as an invitation to go hunting for answers. You should take it as the opportunity you have been waiting for. You must recognize that their absence is a strategy, not an ending. They are hoping you will see their silence as a mystery to be solved, but the truth is, there is no mystery left to uncover. They are exactly who they showed you they were. By refusing to reach out, by refusing to ask the questions they want you to ask, and by refusing to play the part of the confused ex-partner, you are completely defusing their weapon. You are proving that their silence has no power over your peace. When you finally stop chasing the why and accept that the game is rigged, you win. You stop being the one who breaks, and you become the one who finally sets themselves free. The ultimate endgame in dealing with a narcissist is not to win the argument, get the last word, or see them pay for what they did. It is to reach a state of absolute, unshakable indifference. You have to understand that the game they play is entirely dependent on your energy. As long as you are feeling something intense toward them, whether it is white-hot rage, a desire for justice, or even a lingering, painful hope for an apology, you are still a player on their board. They do not fear your hatred because, in a twisted way, hatred is still a form of intense emotional investment. It tells them that they still matter enough to command your focus. True revenge, if you can call it that, is not lashing out. It is becoming completely unbothered by their existence. When you move past the cycle of obsession and anger, you finally reach that quiet, peaceful place where they no longer have the power to ruin your day, trigger your nerves, or even occupy your thoughts for more than a passing second. The reality is that narcissists are terrified of your indifference because it is the only thing they cannot manipulate. They can twist your anger, they can gaslight your questions, and they can exploit your guilt. But they have absolutely no tools to dismantle your genuine lack of interest. When you stop checking their social media, stop looking for updates on their life, and stop waiting for that phantom closure or the apology that will never come, their entire strategic framework collapses. Their games require an audience, and when you stop being that audience, their performance loses all meaning. They are left shouting into a void, because you are no longer there to listen, react, or validate their presence. It is the most powerful no contact you can achieve, the moment where their actions, their new relationships, and their smear campaigns simply fail to register on your radar. It is crucial to remember that you are not going no contact to punish them or to wait for them to miss you. If you are doing it with the hope that they will finally see your worth or suffer for losing you, you are still letting them hold the reins of your emotional state. You must be doing this for yourself and yourself alone. This is about reclaiming the parts of your soul that they spent months or years cannibalizing. You are essentially moving out of a house of mirrors, where everything was distorted, confusing, and filled with controlled chaos, and stepping into the sunlight of your own reality. That is where true, lasting freedom lives. It lives in the freedom of not caring what they are doing, not worrying about what they think of you, and finally feeling like the protagonist of your own life rather than a supporting character in theirs. As you continue this process, the transformation will feel slow, but it is profound. One day you will realize that you haven't thought about them in a week, or perhaps even a month. You will see a notification or hear their name and feel absolutely nothing. No spike in your heart rate, no sudden rush of anxiety, just the quiet realization that they are a stranger to you. That is the moment of liberation. You have reclaimed your mental and emotional territory. You have stopped being a source of fuel for their ego and started being the master of your own peace. When you reach that point of indifference, you haven't just beaten the narcissist, you have outgrown the need to even play the game at all. You have successfully broken the conditioning, healed the trauma, and reclaimed your future. That is the ultimate victory, and it is a prize that belongs entirely to you.